Today we are with Brian Matasevic. He is an occupational health services manager and a licensed athletic trainer. So welcome, Brian. Thank you for your time today.
Absolutely.
We're excited to be having this talk with you because you've done a lot with us with the stretching program at Phoenix Contact. So today we want to talk about movement. That's been our focus. So before we jump into that, can you tell our audience a little bit about what you do?
So, like Wanda said, I'm a certified and licensed athletic trainer. Typically what that means is I would work with sports teams or schools and manage their injuries and rehab protocols. Now what I actually do since about 2013 with CPRS is I go out to companies and work on site with their employees and basically treat all of you as my athletes now. So helping with anything from ergonomics to biomechanics, injuries, stretching, and anything in between.
Awesome, good. And I know you've done a lot for us. The stretching program that we put in place has really done a lot for our employees, especially myself as well. So we want to jump into talking about why movement is so important to our health and our well-being, especially when it comes to the musculoskeletal system. Which is such an essential part of who we are, because that is our body structure,
right.
Which helps to support us and which helps us to move. That's our bones and our joints and all the muscles. So we're gonna take that deep dive today, which I'm excited about. So musculoskeletal disorders are the leading cause of disability in the U.S.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it comes from a lot of different things. So we're more sedentary than ever now. So we have a lot of jobs where we're stuck at a desk for hours on end. Travel has increased, so we're spending more times in cars, trains, planes, things like that. And quite honestly, what ends up happening is we don't play or move around and go outside and do as much as we used to, especially when we were kids.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest things that plays a role into that. And as we move less and less and we start losing some of that range of motion or activating different muscles, we lose that strength, we lose the mobility, we lose the flexibility. So then when you have to use it, it makes it harder to use. It makes it more likely that you're going to injure yourself, or once you do injure yourself, that you kind of get stuck in this cycle of, oh, well, that hurts when I do it, so I can't use this arm, and then it just keeps compounding on top of the problem.
Yeah, and that is so important, so key what you said there about, we're not moving and playing like we were when we were kids and younger, and that's so important, like to get out and play again and do the things that you love to do and enjoy, and which is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this video, because even if someone struggles with movement or mobility because of joint pain or discomfort, there's still some things that you can do to help improve that.
Absolutely. So it's tough to go on social media and look at different Instagram posts of exercises that everybody over 40 should be doing, or different squat variations or really complex exercises. Everything that you can do is scalable.
Okay.
So we can always modify something to make it fit your body or your situation. If you're dealing with an injury or a disease, there's always things that we can do to make you able to move, use those muscles, get stronger, gain mobility, gain range of motion back. So there's always things that we can do to help better your situation.
So one of those things, an easy thing to do, is stretching.
Yeah.
So what's happening inside, because our body has over 650 skeletal muscles.
So just like you said, the muscles are the whole reason that we can move. Yeah. So that's what moves our frame around, supports us, gets us to do what we want to do, and everything else. So when we stretch a muscle, what actually happens is we're creating length into that muscle. As we get older, our muscles start to adaptively shorten, which means they get shorter and shorter and tighter over time if we don't do anything about it. So the easiest thing to do to combat that is to stretch that muscle. Now, just like anything else that we ever do, there shouldn't be a pain associated with it. We should feel tension in the muscle when we do it.
Yeah.
And then you hold that spot nice and steady, anywhere from about 15 to 30 seconds to a minute long, depending on your tolerance. And what that'll do is it'll actually create micro tearing in the muscle, which is exactly what we do when we stretch and when we work out. And that's a good thing because the muscle then rebuilds itself and it re-lengthens, and we gain some of that elasticity and that range that we were kind of limiting as we stopped moving and going through that full range of motion.
Yeah, and I like what you said there, because there used to be the motto, I don't know if it's still there, but no pain, no gain. Okay, but we want to get away from that. You know, we're looking to be pain-free as we age.
Correct.
Which is really huge, because with the musculoskeletal system being the top disability in the U.S., there is a lot of pain with that.
Yes.
And as the old song goes, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, which I think sometimes is my theme song. Yeah. It seems like that. When you've experienced joint pain or like plantar fasciitis, which I came about 2 years ago for me, that is painful.
Yes.
So the importance of stretching is doing it every day.
Yep.
But you don't want to actually feel the pain of stretching. But the purpose of stretching, making it a part of your daily routine, is so that that muscle remains healthy. Correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we can remodel that tissue in the muscle. That way it helps it strengthen and lengthen.
Okay.
And just like you said, the phrase of no pain, no gain, that was an old bodybuilding kind of motto.
Yeah.
And the problem with it is pain plus pain never equaled no pain.
Right.
So if we're constantly putting ourselves into an area where we feel pain, like for instance with stretching,
Yeah.
what we're actually doing is causing bigger tears in the muscle.
Okay.
Bigger tears take longer to heal. Longer time healing means you can't use it fully, and then when you try to, you just create more injury and more tearing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So definitely is a phrase that we like to get away from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I want to talk about weight-bearing joints, which is the knees, the
Yep.
hips, the back. Why is that so important? Tell us a little bit about the weight-bearing joints, I guess.
okay, so one that you did miss is we have to look at our 2 points of contact, and that's our feet and our ankles.
Okay.
Kind of thing. So everything starts from there. Just like you referenced that you had a little issue with plantar fascia.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of muscles in the foot.
Okay.
Okay, about, I'd have to go back and look, but more than 30 muscles in the foot alone.
Okay.
Okay, and what that actually does is those muscles are meant to support our feet, support our weight, and then anything we put on top of it.
Okay.
So if we don't have a good base, well, then it's kind of like building a house on top of pillows.
Okay.
Kind of a thing. So we don't have that solid base of support
Okay.
that starts at the knee, at the feet and the ankles, and then what happens is if we have an issue there, it works its way up to the knees, works its way up to the hips, and then eventually up to the low back. So everything is created from the ground up, just like building a house, basically.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah. So one of the things I always like to tell people about is actually strengthening their feet and getting their shoes off and starting from the ground up. And even if that means, you know, I've had people that I've told, I just want you to stand on flat ground without your shoes on for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Take a seat, wait a minute, and then do another 30 seconds. And we kind of build up from there.
Gotcha.
And then eventually we can get them into walking around barefoot, where the arch of your foot then is actually being supported by the muscles instead of spending tons of money on orthotic insoles, different shoes, and, you know, things of that to try and kind of put a Band-Aid on it.
Okay.
And then from there, I've had a lot of success with, you know, building up the feet and the ankles, and then we can build up the muscles around the knees, the muscles around the hips, and then all of that kind of translates to taking some of that ease and strain off the back, off the hips, off the knees.
Great.
And then we kind of build off of it from there. The problem is that most people don't want to hear is you have to stay consistent.
Yeah.
So it is not an overnight kind of fix. Yeah. But the more consistent we are with these things, the better off we can get. But
great.
Just like you said too, with all those joints, there's a lot of muscles around the hip, you know, that stabilize and do a lot of things that you wouldn't think are doing, because it's more than just the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes. We have a lot of adductor and abductor muscles, which swing in and out, and then support the joint as you're moving up and down, even just getting out of the chair, standing on one foot, kind of things like that.
Yeah. So let's kind of stay with the feet and the lower body a little bit. They say that sitting is the new smoking. It's not good for you. So what is the ratio for our audience that are sitting a lot? What's the ratio for the proper amount of sitting versus standing? Like, when should you be moving and getting up?
Well, the general rule of thumb is you should get up and move around, and this is maybe not necessarily research based, but at least for about 5 minutes or so every hour, kind of a thing. Especially when we have so many jobs that are technology based now. We have more people working from home than ever before, and it's really easy to get stuck in your work and then realize, oh wow, 2 hours went by and I haven't moved or anything. And not to put a whole lot of emphasis on like some of the like watch tech and stuff like that, whether you have, you know, some kind of Apple Watch or any kind of fitness tracker kind of thing like that. Not that those are all necessarily Bible, but it's a good reminder that, you know, if you haven't moved around, a buzzer goes off and says, hey, get up and move, kind of a thing like that. And that just lets you know that you haven't, you're like, okay, I've been sitting for far too long. Let's get some blood flow going. Let's get some lubrication into the joints. And just overall, it's going to make you feel a lot better with the extra movement.
Yeah, and I think too, getting up and stepping away is also, it's good for your eyes. Because of all that screen time, if you're in front of a computer, making sure that you're giving your eyes a break and blinking them and giving them a chance to kind of reset, because those are muscles too.
Yes.
A lot of muscles in your eyes.
Yeah, a lot of muscles in your eyes. And actually that's good you've said that, because that's something I had struggled with a lot, because the nature of my job is if I'm typing notes for, you know, a couple hours, or if I have a longer drive, depending on what company I'm going to, my eyes do tend to dry out quite frequently. And what happens is when you're fixated on a screen, your computer, laptop, whatever, or even when you're driving for longer periods of time, your rate of blinking actually decreases. And the problem with that is then you're not lubricating your eyes as much with the oils and stuff that are meant to cover your eye, keep them lubricated, and keep your vision sharp.
Yeah, good point. And then the other piece of it too is if you're sitting for a long period of time, there's a lot of pressure on your lower back, but you're also not working your quads, which you're not getting that leg strength in, which is going to help you overall with your balance, which is really important as we go into that aging process. You know, where you start getting into trips and falls and that type of thing, and that plays a huge part in what happens to our overall health and well-being. So what are some easy movement things that we can be doing? Even something as simple as walking.
Even just walking and getting out and moving and using those muscles. There's so many people that I've worked with that, you know, if they sit around a lot, or, you know, they stand in one, even in some factories where they're standing in a 3 by 4 foot space operating a machine for hours on end, and then all of a sudden they go on vacation and they want to walk across the boardwalk. After about a half mile, their legs are toast already. You know, so leg strength is definitely one of the biggest things that I try to get across to everybody, is that if there's one thing that we should strengthen, it's our lower half. Because that's, like I said, that's what connects us to the ground. That's what supports us. If you want to pick up your kids or your grandkids, carry them around, or if you just go on vacation and you want to be able to walk up and down the boardwalk or go on hikes, things like that, we have to use our legs. Even in the fact of, you know, if I'm working and I have to stand up out of my chair, well, that's a squat. You know, so definitely strengthening the legs and working balance and coordination is one of the biggest things that we can do as we age. Because again, talking about the balance portion of it, when's the last time you went to a playground and you stood on a balance beam?
I haven't done that for a while.
Right. So maybe elementary school even, or you know, something like that. And especially me with the age that I'm at and the age that my kids are at, you start to really realize that all these things, that all the playground equipment that they have and all the games that they play, they're growing and strengthening and working on balance and different things that as we get older, we don't do that.
You're right.
And it's just like anything else that we talk about today. It's if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing like that. So the more we can work on our balance and our strength and things like that, the better off we're going to be later in life as well.
Yeah. I want to talk about the core, but what are some things that we can do to kind of help that core piece throughout our day?
Yeah. So there's a lot of stabilization exercises that we can do. Now, there's the core muscles allow us to do multiple things. So it helps us stabilize in the sense that, like I said earlier, if you have kids or grandkids and you pick them up and you want to carry them, we have to stabilize through here. Otherwise, we're going to end up flopping all around.
Yeah.
And with that extra weight on top of it, that increases our risk of injury to the spine or to muscles that are supporting it. And that's not to say that movement through the spine is a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's designed to move and meant to move. So there are a lot of different circumstances, like we said earlier, if you dealing with a certain disease or a certain injury, there's different things that we want to focus on, because a lot of times when looking at back pain and spine health and things like that, it was always just stabilize your core, get your core stronger, do this, do that. Then it's really on a case-to-case basis.
Okay.
So some people might need a little bit more of that strength in a movement scenario where you're actually flexing and moving the spine, where some people will benefit a little bit more from the actual stability portion of it.
Okay.
So things that we can do, even just strengthening our core, is planks are always a good solid exercise. It's very easy to scale for people.
Okay.
You can move from the ground to a push-up position. Even if those are too hard, you could stand off of a counter or your bed or sofa arm and raise that level up until you get stronger, and then can start moving gradually towards the ground.
Yeah.
The other thing we can do is, I don't know if you've ever heard of farmer's carries, but grab any kind of weight that you have. If you have dumbbells, kettlebells, anything, basically holding them down to the side. What happens here is we have to tighten through here again so that we don't have excess movement while we're carrying things.
Yeah.
Now, where that would translate to is after you go to the grocery store, you want to carry all those bags in one trip, and that's essentially what we're doing here is learning how to stabilize that. So not only are you getting good workout with the core, but we're also getting work to the stabilizing muscles in the hip, because as we walk, at some point during our stride, we're standing on one foot at a time. And then even when we are standing with 2 feet, we are staggered, so there's more of a straight line path, which then forces us to stabilize side to side even more.
Got it.
So lots of exercises like that are good to help. And then again, same thing, like because it is meant to generate movement, rotating side to side, different exercises like that with movements are definitely beneficial there. I know people still do a lot of like crunches, sit-ups and type of things. So again, on a case-by-case basis, if we're training, so let's maybe even look at some of our older population where risk of fall is more of an issue. If you were to fall and end up on your back, can you sit yourself up to get to a comfortable position, even if, maybe there's an injury into the lower half of your body? That's where a sit-up or a crunch, something like that, would come in handy, because now we're training that functionally for something that could happen, so that we can prevent any further occurrences of it, things getting worse. But there's lots of exercises like that. We could probably spend a half hour just on core training alone. But two of those main functions are to produce movement, but also at the same time to produce stability. And one quick trick that you can do to make sure that you're bracing the core correctly, because this is one thing that a lot of people won't do also, is a lot of times we have a tendency to, when you want to brace your core, is to kind of suck in. It's actually the opposite. We want to push out. So what you would actually do is, if you take your hands and kind of put them underneath your ribs, just like this, what you want to do is you want to be able to push them out. So if you take a deep breath in and then stabilize, you should be able to push your hands out from
Okay.
underneath your ribs.
Okay.
And that will tell you if you're stabilizing properly or if we could use a little bit of work on that as well.
Good.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I said before is if you don't use it, you lose it. So the more that we can move around and increase that range of motion and increase the strength of our bodies and our muscles, we're going to be far better off in life. And I say that mainly because it's one of those things where it's never too late to start.
Yeah.
But the earlier we can start, the better.
Yeah.
Because one day everybody wants to retire.
Yeah.
Okay. And once you retire, you should be able to go and enjoy your life.
Yeah.
So and what that means is if you want to go on long walks or long hikes, think about that. So think about setting goals for what you want to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, for some people, that's just, I want to be able to walk 2 miles when we go to the beach, so up and down the boardwalk. Or let's say you go on a trip to an amusement park, you're putting in a good bit of miles that, and then what happens is if you're not prepared for that, it's a huge stress on your body, tends to make people grumpy and tired, and then, you know, the vacation that you're supposed to be having and enjoying, then it gets a little bit more to be a chore. But setting goals like that, so if I want to be able to, you know, pick up my grandkids, you know, well, how heavy are your grandkids? My 2-year-old's about 30 pounds right now, you know, just to put it in perspective. And that's, to share some personal experience, that's one of the things that I like to do too, is I do weighted step-ups. I have a sandbag at home to kind of mimic a carrying position.
Okay.
So if my 5-year-old's tired and needs to go up to bed, I want to be able to carry her up for as long as I possibly can. Kind of a thing like that. So
great suggestion. And I'm glad you mentioned the goals, because we have been talking a lot this year about setting SMART goals. And it's not about what you see on social media.
Right.
It's not about being at the gym for hours on end or whatever. It's about what you want out of your life and what you can do. And so you've got to be the best person to say, this is what I can handle and this is what I can do. And if you know, mobility is an issue, or if you haven't stretched for a while, you know, spend a minute a day, work it up to 2 minutes. You know, it may seem like a slow progression, but it's all about making it work for you. Want to just talk about safety. You know, we're heading into the warmer months and the summer's coming up. Everybody's thinking about outdoor stuff, vacations, things like that. So don't forget to spend some time focusing on the safety around where you work and around your home, avoiding and moving out of the way any type of items that would cause you to trip or fall, or, you know, ladder safety, things like that. You know, now's not the time to be a superhuman being and thinking that you can do it all by yourself, but making sure that you've got the best clearance and checking in on all those spaces that you come across every day, because that also plays a huge part. If you get injured, you now have joint pain, maybe some broken bones, things like that, and that's gonna you know, keep you from doing what you love and enjoy. So, Brian, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thanks for having me.
this insight. This was, if you have any questions for Brian, email us at the US-Wellness Committee at phoenixcontact.com. You can also follow Brian on social media. We'll include those links down below, I believe Facebook, and some other areas. So Brian, you've got some great stuff out on your social media as far as like talking about tennis elbow and other things. So, you know, go out and see some of the videos that Brian has put out there. So thanks so much. Enjoy your day.